Okay, next up we have Ardea Resources. Ardea's flagship asset is the Kalgoorlie Nickel Project, of which the high-grade Gungari hub alone contains a colossal 784,000 tonnes of nickel and 54,000 tonnes of cobalt. Ardea is rapidly progressing the completion of a DFS in tandem with a strategic partnering process, and once in production will be one of the lowest carbon nickel producers globally. Please join me in welcoming Andrew Penkethman, Managing Director of Ardea Resources.
Thanks very much, Digby, and congratulations on the Diggers and Dealers team for putting on another fantastic event. So today I'll be giving you an update on Ardea Resources and specifically our world-class Kalgoorlie Nickel project. So this photo in the covering slide sets the scene. This is the infrastructure, Goldfields Highway and direct rail links passing through our granted Gungari Hub mining leases upon which our resources are located. And in this image, we're only 70 kilometres north of where we're standing now. So just to put the scale of the KMP into perspective, it is the largest nickel cobalt resource in Australia and it's one of the largest in the world. 5.9 million tonnes of contained nickel metal and 384,000 tonnes of contained cobalt. So to put that into a global perspective, there's approximately 40 kilograms of nickel in your average nickel, cobalt, manganese 811 cathode going in your lithium-ion batteries. So theoretically, that's enough to create 147 million vehicles and put them on the road. So you can see the KMP's poised to provide a key role in the electrification that we're seeing expanding throughout the world. In terms of the location, we couldn't be happier to be part of the local Kalgoorlie-Boulder community in the Eastern Goldfields. We've heard consistently throughout the Diggers and Dealers Forum that Western Australia is the best operating jurisdiction in the world. I've spent about half my career operating in Western Australia and the other half overseas, and it's a very conscious and deliberate decision to be working here in the Eastern Goldfields. In terms of the project, Ardea's been able to retain 100%, and most importantly, that's 100% of the offtake. All the potential partners we talk to want the offtake, and I think the company's done an outstanding job being able to retain and hold on to that value, and we see with the rapid expansion of the lithium-ion battery sector that where's the future battery mineral supply going to come from? And importantly, over the history of the project, there's been over 200,000 metres of drilling at Gungari Hub alone, over 400,000 metres of drilling at the KMP. So a lot of the hard work's been done, and that information underpins the quality of our resources that are currently being optimised to define an updated reserve. The flow sheet, we're in 5th generation HPAL technology. It's been around since the 1960s. Everything in our flow sheet is proven and it's successfully utilised at existing operations. In terms of advancing the project, we're very grateful to the federal government to being granted major project status in March this year, and we're rapidly advancing the KMP and in tandem undertaking some nickel sulphide exploration as well. Quick snapshot of the company. It's a very small, lean board, and we're all about putting the maximum amount of funds into our projects to add further value. We've recently expanded the executive management team with our new CFO and General Manager Exploration to reflect the increased workload. Very tight capital structure, under 170 million shares on issue, and importantly, the board and executive management team, we're all shareholders and very much aligned with our shareholders. A little bit now about the nickel market, and the images on the left-hand side of the slide show historic nickel use and then projected use out to 2040. We all know that stainless steel traditionally has been the main use for nickel, but you add on to that the rapidly growing lithium-ion battery sector and the push for nickel-rich cathode chemistries. There's never been a better time to be in nickel, and we add on to that backdrop the rapidly declining warehouse stockpiles. So the outlook for nickel is absolutely outstanding. We look at the lithium-ion battery sector now, and the Chinese have very much been first movers. They dominate the lithium-ion battery sector through long-term strategic planning. So the rest of the world's trying to play catch-up, particularly in nations like Korea, Japan, the United States and Europe. But again, Australia's got all of the key battery minerals, and in particular Western Australia. So these great states poised to play a leading role in the lithium-ion battery space. And then when you look at the strategic value of the KMP, we will play a very key part in that as well. Our location, all of our projects are highlighted here in red. We've got direct road and rail to the deep sea port of Esperance on the south coast, Fremantle and the rapidly growing Kwinana battery hub. We maintain a local office and a local team. Stakeholder engagement is a critical part of the way we operate. Very proud to be part of the local community. The Geological Survey of Western Australia early this year independently classified the KMP as the largest resource in this great state and similarly, therefore, the largest in Australia. A little bit more now on the resource. So we see our key Goongarrie hub, which is the first target for production, highlighted in red. And during the course of 2021, we completed a number of resource updates to feed into our in-progress feasibility study work. There's a high-grade core there, 78 million tonnes at 1% nickel and 0.07% cobalt. That will give you a feel for the anticipated feed that will go into our 3.5 million tonne per annum operation. That'll be two 1.5 million tonne per annum autoclaves and a 500,000 tonne per annum atmospheric leach circuit. So the benefits of the atmospheric leach circuit are that we generate all of our own power, off-grid, completely independent of fossil fuels. And we look at the inflationary pressures and the rapidly escalating fuel prices. That won't be an issue for Ardea with our on-site power. In terms of the flow sheet, very well advanced, and the addition of the atmospheric leach circuit adds a lot of value through that power generation. All of these images are really important. I'll draw your attention to the drill core. That's a premium goethite ore, or as you hear it referred to in the tropics, limonite. So we've had the Lake Goongarrie over 60 million years on top of our premium goethite deposits. And then we've also got the Bardock tectonic zone, which is the northern extension of the Boulder-Lefroy fault, hosting the Golden Mile gold mineralisations. We've had preferential weathering on those structures in Lake Goongarrie, and that's why all the silica, there's no clay in the goethite. That's why we've got the premium ore feed, and it is the best deposit in Australia. Then in the middle image, that's the spearmint green mixed hydroxide precipitate. So your nickel, cobalt and manganese. All the lithium-ion battery manufacturers love MHP because they can customise that to their precise cathode chemistry, and of course that feeds into the lithium-ion batteries. In terms of the technology, I mentioned we're up to the 5th generation, and Sumitomo have successfully implemented a very large HPAL operation in the Philippines at Coral Bay, been in production for many years, and they achieved over 100% of nameplate capacity in under 12 months of operations. In terms of where we're currently at, we're completing feasibility study work streams. This is linked to a strategic partner process. We've really seen accelerated interest over the course of the last 9 months in particular. We're giving the strategic partner the opportunity to come in and partner with us and have input into the project scale and then product specification. Most people want MHP, but we've also had requests for MSP and nickel and cobalt sulfate. We're going to reach a point where as a company, we will continue to progress the DFS independently, and it's all about retaining the offtake. And it's our belief that the longer we retain the offtake, the more value we can add to the project and the more desperate all the lithium-ion battery plays will become. We've seen 2 weeks ago Ford announce a $50 billion investment into the rollout of their EV fleets over the next 4 years alone. That's just one company of many. So we're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars spent on the lithium-ion battery sector and developing gigafactories, but a lot of companies have lost sight of where they're going to get the ethical and sustainable mineral supply, and that's very much where the KMP comes into play. In terms of the environment, this image here is over Goongarrie, and this is the Great Western Woodland. So we know from nearly 130 years of continuous gold mining in the eastern goldfields that this area rehabilitates very well. It's a semi-arid environment. We don't have the extreme tropical rainfall, the typhoons, the tailings storage challenges, the seismic activity that you experience in jurisdictions like the Philippines and Indonesia. That's the key advantage that Western Australia has, and as we all know, it is the best operating jurisdiction in the world. In terms of our CO2 emissions, we continue to drive these down with in-progress feasibility study work streams. There's been some misinformation there that every laterite is a very high CO2 emitter. That may be the case for the majority of Indonesian producers, but it's not for Ardea. Our carbon emissions are in line with those from BHP Nickel West that promote themselves as one of the lowest carbon emission nickel producers in the world. We will continue to drop our CO2 emissions within progress feasibility study work. We're already incredibly competitive on a peer basis, as this image shows. In terms of sustainable and ethical production, well, what does that mean? So we will be returning the open pit voids to the state that we found them in. So we'll be backfilling the exhausted open pits with neutralised slurry tailings. We will let that dry out over several months through this semi-arid environment. We will then dress it with waste rock and ultimately stockpile topsoil and revegetate it. It's our plan to have a nursery at Menzies just to our north, and again that can help provide local employment opportunities. It's all about that ethical and sustainable mineral supply. I'll just touch briefly now on in-progress nickel sulphide exploration. The KMP and our feasibility study work streams are the priority, but we also have one of the largest land holdings here in Western Australia over ultramafic stratigraphy, and it's those same rocks that host the nickel sulphide mineralisation, whether it be komatiite, Kambalda style or intrusive related. We're currently drilling a compelling target at Emu Lake and completing downhole EM surveys to build upon a discovery that we announced on the ASX on the 14th of January. We control over 20 kilometres of prospective stratigraphy here that's very much underexplored. You can see some of the higher grade massive nickel sulphide there, and we've got a sample of this at our booth, number 33, so feel free to come and see the team at Ardea and we'll happily answer any of your questions. But it's very much our belief that the Kalpini and Emu Lake project's just one emerging nickel sulphide camp of many. And again, if you'd like to ask more, I don't have time to go through each and every target here. So just in summarising, it's evident to everyone here the rapid expansion in demand for nickel. The fundamentals have never been better. We're all aware of the great location we have here in WA. I've spoken about the globally significant KMP resource. It is a proven flow sheet, and most importantly, we've got a team with the experience. We've done it before, whether it be strategic partner processes, discovery and project development, to ensure that our project succeeds and that the KMP can provide a meaningful response to the rapidly emerging electric future. Thanks very much and enjoy the event.
Thanks very much, Andrew. That's great. So I'll just ask one quick question, which I know investors are interested in. You've had the data room open now for several years for strategic partners. I'm just wondering, what are the types of companies that are looking, and is the interest accelerating?
So the virtual data room is very busy. We're literally getting a new company knocking on our door on a fortnightly basis. Activity really started to accelerate in the second half of 2021, and it's really continued to advance very rapidly, particularly following the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. We're talking to a mix of parties, some of the largest lithium-ion battery producers in the world, some of the largest OEMs, so vehicle manufacturers in the world, and also some of the largest mining houses, both here in Australia, but most of the interest in particular is coming from overseas in that scramble for sustainable and ethical mineral supply.
It's an exciting project. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.